Welcome everybody to another episode of the Can Mayonnaise Kill a Jedi podcast. I'm your co-host, Darth Salim.
And I am your main host, the Artificial Dragon, and welcome back to another episode of a podcast, everybody. If you hear a lot of more background noises than usual, the apartment complex that I'm currently living at is under construction. They're replacing the roof of a bunch of apartment complexes, so I hope the background noise isn't too distracting for you guys.
And it's about to storm, so there's thunder.
Yeah. We have three things going on at the same time. We got my AC unit over there, we got construction workers, and we got a thunderstorm coming in. Thanks a lot, Zeus.
Yeah, I know, right?
But anyway, I hope the background noise isn't too distracting for you guys. Always appreciate you listening to our episodes, and I try to take out as much noise as I can while
still being able to hear us.
While remaining Claire, giving us some clarity in all of this chaotic shit that is happening around us. But yeah, I lost my train of thought there. Okay. So as per usual, thank you guys for supporting the podcast. If you love supporting our channel and, contributing in any way you can, we have a Patreon. It's called patreon.com/canmail. Once again, that's patreon.com/canmail. And for this month's Patreon art piece, we have Queen Teta, the legendary leader of a republic that managed to get Naga Sadao to do his legendary family technique out of the galaxy. Mm-hmm. With her intimidating big tetas. Like, ooh, those are some scary bombas. Time to get the fuck out of here. But anyway, if you're not interested in contributing to our highest amount, which is $10, we have other tiers such as our Spacers tier and Initiates tier. The Initiate is $2, but any Patreon tier that you contribute to, you have instant access to our Discord server where you could talk about general Star Wars lore, share memes, or just have a general chat with us and give us some episode recommendations.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and before I forget anything else, time for the shoutouts for all the smugglers that have contributed.
And then I'll do my announcements.
Yeah. So for the smuggler tier, we have Cameron Lee, Elia Gastapi, Kenneth Young, Leon Fott IV, and Tristan H. Thank you guys for contributing to the Smugglers tier. We always appreciate your love and support towards the podcast. But anyway, before we continue on, Hannah?
For all of you who did not see the announcement, that was made 2 weeks ago now?
That was like 2 weeks ago, yeah.
My father unfortunately passed away. He passed away at 2:30 in the morning on August 9th. My brother and I were lucky to be with him in his final moments. And I just hope that I can do my best to carry on his legacy. Thank you to those who have sent their support. And to those of you who want to donate to the GoFundMe, it will be provided in the link, or in the description. The link will be provided in the description. All the proceeds go to medical expenses and funeral costs, because my father unfortunately did not have life insurance. It's been a bit of a tough road for me and my brother trying to get through this, but we're slowly getting through this. And some days are harder than others. On the lighter side of things, go support my blog. It will definitely help me try to keep my mind off of thinking about the sadness and the loss. That's all I got.
Alright. And before I forget,
link for the blog will be in the description too.
Yeah, everything will be in the link in the description of this video and every other video onwards and all that. Thank you so much, Hannah. I am very sorry for your loss. I lost both of my grandparents 2 years ago, so I understand your pain completely.
May they rest in peace.
Yeah, may they rest in peace. But, yeah, wow, this took a very sad tone, but...
That's why I ended it with the light side of supporting my blog.
But anyway, alright, before I go into that, in terms of Star Wars news, by the time of this recording, the Ahsoka TV show will be out already.
Oh, right.
Yeah, the Ahsoka TV show will be on the 23rd. I'm just gonna go ahead and pretend that I already watched the Ahsoka show. Like, ooh, that was so awesome. That was an amazing 2 episodes.
I can't wait to see it.
Yeah, me too. I'm so looking forward to it. Maybe we'll make I don't know what video we'll make in that span of time, but hello, us in the future. We're in the past right
2
now.
weeks from now.
But yeah, yeah. Aside from the Ahsoka TV show, we also have my birthday coming up, which is coming up on the 25th of this month. Of this week.
So the Ahsoka show was basically an early birthday present.
Essentially, yes.
That's
Which
cool.
is very serendipitous because I still remember watching the Clone Wars movie when I was still in theaters, like back in, what was it, 2010, somewhere around there?
I wouldn't know.
Yeah, somewhere around 2010. Yeah, it's just nice seeing her evolve or growing up with us as we've gotten to know Ahsoka and everything.
Oh, yeah.
And now
I know there's going to be criticisms, but...
Yep. Still looking forward to it, though.
Same here. Of course, I am looking forward to Thrawn.
Yep.
Played by the best, Lars Mikkelsen.
And immediately going into the Thrawn simp personality over there, I see.
Hey, at least I'm not sad.
Very true. So with that out of the way, Hannah, I'm pretty sure you know what today's episode is going to be about.
We, ladies and gentlemen, are going to be talking about the home of the Jedi.
Indeed, and specifically, the Jedi Temple.
On Coruscant.
Yeah, we need that clarification because if we're going to be completely honest, there is like a shit ton of Jedi temples all across the galaxy. We're talking about the main one that you see in the prequel trilogy.
Yes, we're talking about the main one.
Yeah,
the very big ass temple.
It is a very big ass temple. But yeah, though it has the massive recognition to the casual Star Wars fan, in reality, the Jedi Temple of Coruscant is actually quite young compared to other temples that the Jedi have used in their long history.
Oh, I'm sure.
Like, of course, the ones on Typhon by the Jedi Order outdate the one on Coruscant by a large amount.
Oh, yeah, of course. And there's also one on Ossus.
Yeah, the one on Ossus, including the Great Jedi Library, which is basically the Library of Alexandria.
Yep.
But yeah, we also have other comparisons, like there's the temple on Ilum, which is created in 22,800 years before the Battle of Yavin.
Oh shit, you're right, I forgot about that
one. The Jedi Temple on Coruscant was constructed at around 3,996 years before the Battle of Yavin. So it's fairly old, but compared to other temples, it's pretty young. It's barely even a toddler in comparison.
Well, considering we see it getting sacked in the cinematics to the Old Republic.
Yep.
That's some of my favorite cinematics, by the way.
Or motherfucking Malgus is just barging in like the Giga Chad he is.
Yes.
But anyway, so a nice little bit of history. So as we all know in our previous episodes on like Revan and Exar Kun and all that, the original Jedi Temple, the HQ of a Jedi Temple was on Ossus. Mm-hmm. And then Exar Kun decided to supernova a couple of stars, and the Jedi were like, fuck that shit, we're gonna go to Coruscant and make our own temple over there.
Yep.
But anyway, let me get into the history of how it came to be the Jedi Temple. Though the origins of a temple on Coruscant would go back specifically to 5,000 years before the Battle of Yavin, so this is around when Naga Sadow decided to try and take over the galaxy.
Okay.
So yeah, the original site of where the Jedi Temple would be made, So, back in the day, Coruscant, it's not like the Yukinopolis that we know it to be as it is today, where it's just nothing but cities all across its surface. There were still a couple of parts of Coruscant that, were naturalized. Like, there's mountains, and I think there's like an episode in the Mandalorian where there's this sacred mountain, the very tip of a mountain that's just taped off for people to look at and everything. The Jedi were given for a thank you from the Republic for getting Naga Sadow the fuck out of here. The Republic gave them their own plot of land, which contained what is called the Sacred Spire, which is a ancient mountain that was the center of worship from the ancient Coruscanti.
Nice.
So yeah, initially the Jedi were like, cool. I don't know what we can do with this very tip of a mountain, but I guess we can make meditative towers all around it. Because initially the Republic had this idea to, give the Jedi a plot of their land on Coruscant so that they could be much more connected to the Galactic Republic and its politics and everything. And the Jedi, they weren't into that. They wanted to, remain kind of a neutral party in galactic affairs, but still work with the Republic, not exactly as the Jedi were in the prequel era and everything.
Yeah.
So they mainly just...
Still staying peacekeepers.
Pretty much. They mostly just...
Only that had worked.
They mostly just stayed to Ossus in their own dedicated temple, while they just send members to Coruscant to meditate and everything, because the Sacred Spire was the centerpiece of a wellspring Force Nexus and everything.
Nice.
So, at least there's that going for the mountain. Let me see... Though it wasn't until the Old Sith Wars, which was when Exar Kun was bumping about and everything, that the Jedi were all like, okay, our temple on Ossus got a little bit fucked up by a supernova. Sure, we'll take this plot of land and create the foundations of our future temple and everything. So... There's these 4 individuals. They're called the 4 Masters. They're basically like the original architects of a Jedi temple and everything. They would create the Temple Ziggurat, which is that rectangular structure that consists of the entirety of the temple and everything.
Yes, a ziggurat.
Yeah, as time goes on, they kind of put layers. It's like that meme with Shrek. Ogres have layers. The temple also has numerous layers, which we'll go to in a little bit.
Oh yeah, that big building can hold a lot of shit.
Exactly. The temple ziggurat is just a gigantic shell, and underneath is just numerous chambers, numerous rooms and everything. I'm actually going to send you a little cutaway from the official Star Wars Revenge of the Sith cutaway book, because there is a lot in this Jedi temple, and there is a lot of details that you can see in there.
Oh,
it's
I'm sure
absolutely
there is.
incredible.
Whoa.
Yep.
Holy shit.
Yeah, just... Like, if you look... okay, so you see the center tower where the High Council meets and everything? Look to the very bottom. That is the ancient spire that the Jedi built this temple upon.
Oh, so they still have, like, the tip of the mountain inside the temple.
Yep.
Wow.
And they just built around that.
That's cool. Good way to preserve the nature of that was originally there.
Yeah. And of course, since the Jedi now have their headquarters literally in the heart of the Republic itself, they became much more connected to the Galactic Senate and its politics and everything, becoming their own, still peacekeepers, but more of a police force for the Republic and everything.
I wish I could read everything the picture is saying.
I know. It's a little bit low depth, but you could tell.
The quality is very crap.
Yeah, it is. But you could still see the nice little finer details in the temple and everything.
A little bit, but not really.
Just a little bit. And then once they made the ziggurat, the 4 masters would build the 5 spires that you see on top of the temple. And each spire, they have their own... So each spire... Let me actually tell you how big the Jedi Temple is, because it is big. Like, the tallest tower reaches over 1 kilometer in height.
Holy shit.
Which may not sound like much for our American viewers, but it's basically barely a mile.
But still a lot.
Yeah, for comparison, you know what the Burj Khalifa is, right? It's known as the tallest building in the entire world. It's in Dubai.
In Saudi Arabia, yeah.
Yeah. The Burj Khalifa reaches up into the sky of around 2,760 feet.
Sounds like someone's compensating for something.
The Jedi Temple reaches up to 3,280 feet high.
Holy fuck!
So it's essentially as tall as a small mountain or something.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Better hope you're not afraid of heights.
Well, you gotta be as brave as a Jedi to,
God. That
brave
sounds like a nightmare.
Yeah, exactly. And the ziggurat itself has a width of around, 1,674 feet wide. For comparison, there's this building in China called the New Century Global Center, which is 1,312 feet wide.
Zeus is really making some comments.
Yeah, he's just jealous that I'm talking about the Jedi Temple, not Mount Olympus. So yeah, if it's not clear already, the Jedi Temple is big.
It's fucking huge.
It's like 5 times bigger than our own Sky Dome over here. And you know how big it is inside.
Yeah, the Sky Dome is huge.
Yep.
Imagine that, but like 5 times bigger.
Yep, exactly.
That's fucking huge.
And that is the entirety of the Jedi Temple, the Jedi Order and everything.
That's just to house the Jedi Order.
Yes.
God damn. That's just a big home.
Yep, it is. Let me see if I could. Okay. And as the construction kept growing over the centuries, the Jedi would add numerous features into the ziggurats of the temple. Like, they would take tiles from their former temple on Ossus and everything and just plaster it into the walls of a Jedi temple and everything.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah, just retrieving as much as they could and make them a little bit more nostalgic of their old home and everything. And I believe the construction of a Jedi temple as a whole took over a millennia to complete.
God damn.
Yeah.
Well, it makes sense that it would take that long to complete. That thing is big!
Especially when you have Force-wielding monks trying to move shit around with the Force.
Yeah.
Oh, man. And, okay, so I covered a little bit of the Jedi Temple's history. So let's talk about the layouts and everything. The nice, juicy stuff. So the Jedi Temple is located within Galactic City, which is essentially the capital of Coruscant.
Yeah.
It is literally like a couple blocks away from the Senate District and everything. However, the Jedi Temple has its own district called the Temple Precinct. It's like a couple of blocks of, buildings and other settlements that center around the Jedi Temple and everything. So you know that one part of Flagstaff that houses the police station and everything?
Yeah, Sawmill.
Yeah. Imagine that, but with a Jedi Temple many times larger.
Holy shit.
Yeah. But let me see. And of course, I talked about the 5 spires jutting out of the ziggurat. And if you notice in that picture, the center tower is supported entirely by the sacred spire, that little tippy top of a mountain that's
what I was talking about.
Yeah, and
that's really cool.
It is pretty cool. And each tower is supported by a highly tensile substance called magnetite, which is a very durable material, building material and everything. Like, many times stronger than concrete and everything.
Okay.
The shorter 4 towers that surround the temple spire are known as the Council Towers, each of which contains a different council, which do include the Jedi High Council.
Yeah, but don't the Jedi High Council reside in, or meet in the tower, in the spire?
Later down the line, from what I can gather, all 4 towers were meant to symbolize what the Jedi are meant to go through. Like the Jedi High Council, dictates everything, and the other council towers dictate other aspects of the Jedi Order and everything.
Yeah, because like there's like councils for the knights, there's councils for the consulars. It's more intricate than you would think.
Yeah. Yeah, and it wasn't until, like, the Clone Wars or someone like there, where the Jedi Council would just move into the center tower. From what I can gather, at least.
Because we only get so much from the movies.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, so let me go ahead and talk about before I go into each individual tower. Each tower hosts their own hangars, like with their own support craft and Jedi starfighters and everything like that. And it's maintained mostly by Jedi Temple security and astromech droids and all that. Okay.
Background noise.
And on top of each tower is a crown of antenna, which not only provide constant connection to the holonet, which is basically the internet of Star Wars.
The internet.
But also taps into the cosmic energy fields of the galaxy, which allow the Jedi to stay in contact with members of the Jedi Order in far-off worlds.
That's very helpful.
Yeah, think of it as almost like a encrypted database where you could reach out to Jedi in, like, I don't know, the fucking unknown regions or something.
That's pretty cool.
It is pretty cool, yeah.
It's just a big-ass cell phone tower.
pretty much, yeah. So let me go ahead and go into each individual tower and why they're so significant.
Okay.
The first one is the Tower of First Knowledge. And unfortunately, I don't have pictures of them because it's kind of difficult to tell which one is which just on the surface level and everything.
It's very difficult to tell.
Yeah. But anyway, the Tower of First Knowledge. Basically, it oversees the operation of the Jedi Academy and the Jedi Archives. So they're like the big glass nerds and everything. It houses the Council of First Knowledge, which is made up of 5 masters. Is there anything else I missed? Okay. And the second one is the High Council Tower, which was the tower that pretty obviously holds the meeting of the Jedi High Council. And within this tower, it houses residents of each High Council member, including the Grand Master.
Nice.
So, if you have Plo Koon, Ki-Adi Mundi, Shaak Ti, they live in that tower, basically. And within that tower, it also houses additional rooms, like the Operations Planning Center, which is essentially like a war room and everything, where they contact other planetary governments for important confidential matters.
So basically, this tower was the base of the council.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Okay.
And let me see. Where was it? Okay, and in that tower contains the Treasury Room, which is very self-explanatory. It has a majority of the Jedi's assets and money and everything.
Probably a lot of artifacts, too.
Yep, pretty much. And then next is the third tower, is a Tower of Reconciliation, which hosts the Council of, Reconciliation. It was made up of 5 masters, and they are tasked with negotiating between the political factions both inside and outside of the Galactic Senate. So these guys were basically the mediators between political parties and everything.
Nice.
Yeah, which is pretty interesting when you think about it.
It is.
Let me see.
I mean, it's necessary.
Yeah.
Especially considering how brutal fucking politics there is.
That is very true. You gotta have those skilled negotiators and everything. One other thing to note within the tower is that it contains a garden which produces herbs and vegetables for the Jedi dining hall in the larger temple and everything.
That's gotta be fucking huge.
It is. I mean, when you consider that each tower reaches a kilometer up in the air, yeah, you could house a lot in there.
Well, that and the temple is huge.
Yep.
There are thousands and thousands of Jedi living in that temple, and you gotta get food to feed them.
Yep.
So that garden must have been huge.
Yep. Well, there's a lot more gardens within the Jedi Temple itself. It's just one of the many gardens that the temple has. Let me see if there's anything else. And then the fourth tower is the Reassignment Council Tower, which houses the Council of Reassignment. Basically, these are the guys who kind of look over initiates who fail to pass the Jedi trials and consider what should we do with them. Should we let them go? Should we pass them on to
The Service Corps.
the Agri Corps, that sort of thing. So that their force abilities are
still usable.
still usable, not as a Jedi, but as a volunteer, essentially. I think I remember a quote a while ago where I can't remember if it was Anakin that said this or if he put it down in one of the Jedi books or whatever. It was something along the lines of, "Thank goodness I didn't go to that tower."
Well, yeah. Who would want to go to that tower?
Yeah.
That sounds like a big old fucking letdown if you don't get chosen as a Padawan.
Yeah, it's just one of those towers like, okay, do your fucking best, otherwise you're going to the reassignment tower.
That's sad, though, for the people who don't get to become Padawans.
Yeah. I think I also remember hearing in a couple of videos I was listening to for research purposes, if you do fail to pass the trials, you either have a choice of becoming part of a service corps or whatever, or you could just go out on your own. And fortunately, the Jedi Order as a whole have assets given to them by the government. So if you fail to pass your test or anything like that, you could basically just go out, have your own assets, have your own residence. Like, if you fail...
It's just like Chiss Society.
Yeah, pretty much. So, like, even if you fail, unlike with a Sith who will probably just murder your ass, you could just go out of a temple and make your own way into the galaxy.
That's cool.
It is pretty cool. Kind of wondering why Ahsoka wasn't given us assets, but whatever.
Yeah, plot hole.
But anyway, so we already explored the four main towers. Let us talk about the tallest of them all, which is called the Temple Spire, aka the Tranquility Spire, which is obviously the one in the very, very center of the ziggurat and
It's
everything.
the one we see the High Council in.
Yep.
In the movies.
It is traditionally seen as the most important of the 5 spires, as it houses the text of the founding Jedi, some of which come from Ossus itself.
Cool.
The Hall of Knighthood, meditation chambers, memorial statues of the Order's most revered Jedi, and later in the Clone Wars, it would host a Jedi High Council chamber at the very top.
Yeah, I knew I was right.
I think I have a picture of the High Council chamber. Well, actually, no. If you look in the cutaway that I just sent, you could see a bunch of statues. And then moving on from the very top of the temple and into the exterior and everything.
Mm-hmm.
So as I mentioned before, it has its own precinct and everything. Mm-hmm. Let me see if I could... Okay, there we go. So the outside of the Jedi temple was a boulevard that led from the temple precinct to the entrance of the temple. You know, that gigantic staircase, statues and everything.
Well, we see Anakin entering when he comes in with the 501st.
Or Darth Malgus when he just casually walks into the temple and everything.
Or when the fucking shit comes crashing in.
Yeah, just more fucking Kool-Aid Man from Wall. Anyway, so... that specific entrance would be called the Prequel Way, which began at a large public landing platform leading down a road that terminated at the large staircase into the temple prior. Yeah?
Hang on, I have a hair lingering somewhere.
Okay, where was I? Okay. The Prequel Way is lined with many statues immortalizing masters and scholars, and at the very entrance, let me see if do I have a picture of this? I believe I do. Yeah. If you look at this one scene where the 501st is marching up the steps and everything, you'll see 4 prominent statues at the entrance.
Oh yeah.
Those are the statues of the 4 masters, the original architects of the Jedi Temple.
Makes sense.
Yeah. There, as far as I can tell, there are 4 main entrances of the Jedi Temple. The one that you see in most media is pretty much like I think it's either the public entrance or just a grand entrance.
It looks like the public entrance.
Yeah. But yeah, think of the Jedi Temple as like a giant square, and there's an entrance at each side of a square, 4 sides and everything.
Okay.
But let me see. To ensure the security and privacy of a temple, each entrance had 5 Padawans that would guard the temple during the day, and 2 Jedi Knights to guide it during the night.
Why not just put fucking temple guards there?
Oh, well, there's a shit ton of guards around the precinct. Like, if you would, I'm not sure if they explain this in SWTOR or anything like that, but the Jedi Temple has its own police force, the temple security and everything.
They did not explain that in the game.
You may actually see him briefly in the trailer that Malgus appears in. In the first couple of seconds, he's surrounded by gunmen and he just cuts them down and everything. Mm-hmm. Those are the temple security. They're just normal ass dudes with guns and everything.
Christ, now I need to watch that trailer scene by scene to pick up every little fucking detail.
But yeah, the Jedi Temple, it looks like a fortress. It's built like a fortress.
I'm sure it is.
You have numerous Jedi Padawans and Knights. You have the Jedi Peacekeepers, who are a branch of Jedi Guardians that specifically patrol around and inside the Jedi Temple at all times.
Yeah.
And then, of course, you got the Temple Guards, who are the guys with a mask and everything.
They look pretty cool.
They do look pretty cool. I like that. But yeah, the Jedi Temple, getting into the Jedi Temple is no easy task when you have a shit ton of security just patrolling the Jedi Temple 24/7, both outside and inside.
No ordinary Joe could just walk in and do whatever they wanted.
Yeah, exactly.
Malgus, on the other hand, Kool-Aid Man it with a fucking ship.
Kool-Aid Man from the wall. Oh man, Malgus is awesome sometimes.
Sometimes.
But anyway, where was I? Oh yeah, and the temple security is overseen by what is called a Jedi Gate Master. They're basically like a head of security or a sheriff or something like that.
Interesting.
Yeah, and unfortunately, the named Gate Master in Revenge of the Sith would be the first victim of Anakin Skywalker
in
Operation Nightfall. Additionally, okay. So an interesting thing to note about the temple security is that it is comprised mainly of non-force sensitive soldiers and police officers.
That is surprising.
Yeah. Either recruited from the inhabitants of a temple precinct, or they are former initiates that failed their Jedi trials and everything.
That sucks.
Yeah, at least they got to do something.
Yeah, I guess.
And at around the time of the Clone Wars, the temple security numbered at around 500 individuals.
God damn.
So essentially the Jedi had their own privatized military at that point, or militia if you want to go that far.
Yeah, that's a militia.
And on both occasions, it was attacked, the first by Malgus and the second by Vader and everything. Mm-hmm. The Jedi and their temple security would fight shoulder to shoulder against these opponents. Didn't do them very good, though, unfortunately. Nope. Yeah, I remember that one scene where there's these security guards who try shooting, and a Civ just jumps into the air and does a force repulse on their asses.
That's fucking cool, though.
It is pretty cool. So we talked about the exterior of a Jedi Temple. Let's talk about the main defining structure, which is the ziggurat itself. Mm-hmm. As I mentioned before, think of the ziggurat as a gigantic shell that has multiple layers and everything. It has, over its lifetime, it has been given new expansions and everything. Like there's one shell.
Duh.
It has one shell, and then another shell, and then another shell, and then another shell just build upon itself and everything. Probably the most prominent feature of a Jedi Temple when you go into the entrance is the Grand Hall, which is that gigantic chamber that goes from the entrance to the Sacred Spire at the center of a Jedi Temple.
Yeah, that's where the fight between Malgus and Zen Velo takes place.
Yeah, and At the Sacred Spire, as I mentioned at the beginning of the episode, it initially has like ancient meditation chambers and stone structures that made its own enclave and everything.
Mm-hmm.
But as time went on, these chapels and sanctuaries would basically be abandoned as gathering dust and being a reminder of a much more simple time of a Jedi's past and everything.
That's sad, especially as the war went on.
Yeah, exactly. Fascinatingly enough, though, each one of these chapels and sanctuaries are some of the largest in the entire Jedi Temple. Like, they could house hundreds of Jedi
Wow.
if they choose to. But during the Clone Wars, as I mentioned, they're basically dusty old relics of a much grander era of the Jedi. And as the temple precinct was built upon, with more apartments and residences and everything like that, like everywhere else in Coruscant, the Jedi would make a shell around that initial layer of the Jedi temple with a spire.
Mm-hmm.
And they would make other stone buildings which served as office spaces and dormitories, while more stone towers and obelisks were jutted up from the mountain. Though, unfortunately, these two would also be abandoned by the Jedi Order.
Well, yeah.
I also find this interesting. During the time of the Clone Wars, these structures were only explored by the most eldest of Jedi Masters who had the knowledge and skill to navigate these ancient designs.
Oh shit, so younglings and Padawans couldn't even go there.
They would probably get lost in the labyrinth that is the center of the Jedi Temple.
That's funny.
It is pretty funny. And then, let me see. As time progressed, the stone structures would eventually be covered with a dark durasteel outer layer and incorporated red stone, giving the temple a dark and sedated appearance from the exterior. Eventually, the ziggurat would be made up of numerous columns and support, which held the entire structure, thus allowing the Order to construct numerous chambers and rooms within the shell of the ziggurat itself.
Yeah.
Though the most prominent site, famous for many I already talked about the Grand Hall, let me go ahead and skip that. One of these first chambers built within the shell was what is called the Room of 1,000 Fountains.
Yeah, it's basically I want to call it a garden, but it's not. It's take a rainforest and put it in a room.
Pretty much, yeah.
It's fucking amazing.
It is. As you said there, it's described as a greenhouse, which contains waterfalls and huge amounts of flora, meditative areas, potteries, and stone walkways.
That's so cool.
It is so cool. And then there's another room called the Lake Level. It is basically a 5-story facility built within the walls of a temple as a meditative retreat, which contains a massive lake of clear green water.
I can imagine, all of the aquatic, base races kind of chilling there and swimming there.
Yeah,
That's cool.
It's not uncommon for Jedi apprentices in between lectures to sneak off in there and take a swim.
That sounds nice.
It is nice. On top of that, it contains trees, flowers, a beach, some benches, and its atmosphere is so different compared to everywhere else in the temple that most observers who enter into it feel like they're on a completely different planet.
Who wouldn't?
Yeah,
that sounds beautiful.
It is so cool. It seems a little bit ridiculous when you think about it, but considering how big the Jedi Temple is, I could see that happening.
Yeah, you gotta have a sanctuary somewhere.
Yeah, exactly.
And that sounds like the perfect, getaway sanctuary.
Yeah. And underneath the ziggurat, at the main level, there is a menagerie beneath the temple that has additional flora and fauna, numerous creatures from across the galaxy. And there's this creature that Yoda keeps called a Kaibuk. Think of it as a kangaroo with horns on top of its head. Yeah, a Kaibuk.
That's what Ahsoka and her mom are hunting in the Tales of the Jedi.
Yeah.
That's cute.
And that is certain Kaibuk that Yoda keeps was actually a gift to him from a Wookiee princess.
Oh, that's cool.
And it's also kind of fascinating because Jedi aren't known to keep pets or objects or anything like that, but Yoda, being the polite grandmaster, decided to take the Kai bag and put him in a menagerie to live its life and everything.
That's cool.
And occasionally ride as a steed into battle. As you can see in the Clone Wars a couple of times. The old Clone Wars.
He does?
Yes, he does.
Holy shit.
You could literally see him charging into columns of battle droids.
Holy shit.
It's so cool, but kind of silly, but still cool.
You wouldn't think Yoda would be a type to have a pet.
Oh, yeah.
Or a mount.
And then let's see, among the less fantastical chambers is the detention center. You know, where you keep all the prisoners and everything.
Yep, jail.
Yeah. Which is specifically built above a fountain of the room of 1,000 fountains. In the ancient past, it was used to contain the Sith Lords that they captured in the Old Republic era, and their dark side corrupted creatures.
Uh-huh. Now it probably just sits, like, dormant.
Well, I mean, it's partially dormant. In the golden age of a republic, when the Sith were quote-unquote extincted, they would just keep dark Jedi, or just regular people that met the Jedi's radar and everything. Fascinatingly, though, if among anyone that you want to be captured by in the entirety of the Star Wars galaxy, it would probably be the Jedi. Let me explain. So each room of a detention center is basically outfitted like, it has like a private bathroom, it provides holographic entertainment, it's even got a normal bed in there.
Oh, so kind of like, Finnish prisons.
Yes.
Or, yeah, prisons in Finland kind of look like that. That's cool.
Yeah. And
doesn't feel much like a prison.
Yeah, people describe it more as an apartment than an actual prison.
It's not bad.
But in this case, the tenant cannot leave their apartment.
I see no downside.
I see no downside to this. I fucking love that meme. I see no downsides to this.
Who would? Yeah, you got arrested, but at least you're not sleeping on a fucking slab of concrete.
Yeah, pretty much. Or like
have a metal toilet.
A metal toilet that is in full view of everybody, yeah.
Yeah. Compared to American prisons, that is a lot better.
Or the Sith.
Yeah.
They don't have that luxury.
Nope. The Sith put you in a cage.
Pretty much, yeah.
That is all.
But yeah, also this was kind of a funny detail when I read it. So in the detention center, there is a laundry chute where, you know, you put the prisoner's clothes and everything to go to the laundry. In the case that somebody breaks out of their cell and decides, oh, laundry chute, I could use that and, escape. Instead, the laundry chute is designed to help recapture organic prisoners.
Oh shit.
Like if somebody goes into the chute, they're just rechanneled into a chamber.
That's funny.
I
thought you said it was going to turn into like an incinerator. Which would be clever too.
It would be kind of clever, but yeah, just whoop! Ah, crap, I'm back where I am. I thought that was so funny when I came across it.
That's very funny.
Also, on top of, the luxuries and everything, the detention center is comprised of many different types of force-resistant and lightsaber-resistant metals. So there's most likely a good indication that Beskar lines the detention center of a Jedi temple.
Just Mandalorians seething with rage.
Seething with rage. Oh, man. Yeah, but there's a lot of interesting things in the Jedi Temple. There's so many things. I just picked out the ones that were more interesting to me, because there is a lot of them.
I'm sure there is.
Well, let me see if I could go to the next one. Of course, we know the Jedi Archives.
Yeah, the big-ass library.
Yeah, the big-ass library, which is said to contain a fathomless collection of ancient knowledge and research going back thousands of years.
Wow.
As well as innumerable amounts of reading material collected from all corners of the galaxy.
So it's not just, Jedi text.
Yeah.
It's all it's a big-ass library.
Pretty much, yeah.
That means one section's got, holo drama and telenovelas.
Yeah.
And romance books.
Or if you want to go further, NSFW stuff.
Yep.
But Jedi have to learn the birds and the bees somewhere. But anyway, I think also in that the Jedi Archives, it also contains, the holocron vaults and everything. Which I think is there's like a couple of episodes in the Clone Wars where the episode where Cad Bane infiltrates the Jedi Temple and everything to retrieve a holocron. They have to go through the Jedi Archives because there's blueprints and everything there.
Yeah.
And they need, and even though Cad Bane is a smart motherfucker, he still needs prep time for this shit.
Well, no shit. You're infiltrating the Jedi Temple.
Which I think is arguably one of the most highly defended places in the entire galaxy.
Achievement to Shea Vizsla for getting in without being detected.
Yeah, pretty much. Or whoever took the Darksaber.
No, I'm saying Shea Vizsla because she was there at the siege of the temple.
That is very true.
With
yes.
Malgus.
I'm trying to remember. Crap. It'll probably come back to me later. And of course, the Jedi Temple has, dormitories for all their Padawans and everything.
Yeah.
And these dormitories are also known as the accommodation sector. Each room is crafted so that the rooms can be adjusted to make the many species of a Jedi comfortable through the use of specialized atmospheric adapters.
That's cool.
So like, I don't know, you're a HUD Padawan. Is it too dry for you? Crank up the AC.
Crank up the AC, give you a little bit of humidity.
Or if you're like a Tusken Raider who feels that it's too cold, bring up the temperature. I do like how the Jedi are accommodating for all species.
Yeah, that is pretty cool.
For the Sith, they'd probably be all like, they'd be like a football coach. Get over it.
Yeah. Yeah, you get what you're given and you don't throw a fit about it.
Yeah, pretty
Otherwise
much.
you die.
Then, of course, the temple has a laboratory maintained by the Agricultural Corps. There's the Halls of Healing, maintained by the Medical Corps. And there are, of course, numerous kitchens throughout the entire Jedi Temple.
You gotta feed them.
You gotta feed all the
all
little
those
boys.
Jedi.
Yeah.
You gotta feed all those Jedi.
And here's a couple of minor additions of a Jedi Temple I thought were interesting. There's the analysis rooms, which... So the analysis room appears in a deleted scene of Attack of the Clones where Kenobi goes to them to see if they could identify the saber dart and everything. And it could not be identified, which is why he goes to Jester in the first place.
Okay. Dexter.
Yeah, thank you. Then, of course, there's the carbon freezing chamber. Very self-explanatory. There's a room called the Black Vault, which contains all of the Sith artifacts the Jedi have at their disposal.
Oh, shit.
Yep. There's the Grand Banquet Hall. Very self-explanatory. The War Room. A museum. A dojo. A pyre room. Reception hall. Meditation garden. Safe room. Tech center. A planetarium.
Holy shit, this place is huge.
Yep. A Padawan dining hall. Wardrobe house, and the healing crystal room.
And I would like to mention the creche.
Oh yeah. Where they have the groups of Padawans and everything.
Basically,
yeah.
Jedi kindergarten.
Pretty much, yeah.
It's a good way to sum it up. That's where all the younglings live in their clans, and
Yeah.
the master, the creche masters take care of them.
Yeah.
Along with droids.
Though more interestingly, one of the Jedi Temple's darkest secrets would be found deep beneath the structure itself. And this structure is called the Shrine in the Depths.
Very ominous name.
And if it's not obvious, it's a former Sith shrine.
What? How the fuck? How the fuck?
So, from what I can gather, the Shrine in the Depths was constructed by the ancient Sith as a means of corrupting the already powerful light side nexus that already existed on Coruscant. As such, the Jedi Temple, the Jedi Order found out about this, and they were like, oh, that's not good. Let's smother it in light side energy. Which is why one of the main reasons why the Jedi Temple was built. Because the main idea is, it's essentially their version of putting a carpet over this shit stain or something like that.
Yeah, big blood stain, put a big old carpet over it.
Put a big old carpet, except the carpet is like a structure that reaches a kilometer in height.
Yep.
and has the entirety of the Jedi Temple on top of it. But anywho, this place was originally meant to be explored in a unaired episode of the Clone Wars.
Of course.
Yeah. Ahsoka Tano, when, she was ejected out of the Jedi Temple, she would accidentally stumble upon it and figure out, oh shit, this is how the dark side has become much more powerful and has clouded our ability to foresee the future and everything.
Why the fuck wasn't that included?
No,
That's bullshit.
Forgotten to time.
That's not fair.
And this shrine would blind the Jedi to the dark side, and it was Palpatine's most powerful asset in deceiving the Jedi of the Republic.
Wrinkled old fucking dark testicle!
Oh, man. So yeah, that is the layout of the Jedi Temple. I gotta say, there was a lot more than I was expecting.
Oh yeah, there was so much more than I was expecting.
If you told me that there was a motherfucking spa in the Jedi Temple, I would not doubt you at all.
There probably is.
There probably is, yes.
You gotta take care of your soldiers somehow.
Yeah, and, meditation chambers for days.
Oh yeah.
I think, one of the rooms, they have a legit ocean in there.
Holy shit.
Yep.
Yeah, the temple is pretty amazing.
It is amazing. Just to make it more mind-boggling, I think it's a little bit smaller than the Senate building.
The Senate building is fucking huge.
Yep.
As
No
we
wonder
talked
it could
about in the
house.
Senate episode.
No wonder it could house multiple senators from across the galaxy in it.
Yeah.
But anyway, I already dived into the layout. Let's return into the Jedi Temple's history.
Okay.
Ever since its construction, the Jedi Temple is no stranger to attacks and changes. Yeah, very obvious. During the first Jedi Purge enacted by Darth Nihilus and Sion, the temple would actually be briefly abandoned for a little bit. And then once those two, got the short end of the stick, they returned back to the Jedi Temple and everything.
Yeah.
And then, of course, we know the legendary attack by Darth Malgus on the Jedi Temple and everything.
Which caused it to be abandoned again.
Yep, and they were forced to go to Typhon again. During that time, I believe all 5 of the towers were collapsed and they needed to be rebuilt.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, Malgus did a number on that Jedi Temple.
Good on you, Malgus.
I think it also legitimately got orbitally bombarded at one point.
Oh, fuck. Jesus.
Yeah, even if you look at the Jedi Temple during the Clone Wars era, there are still brief, small hints of scorch marks all over its hull and everything.
I'm sure.
Yeah, it's got the scars to show. And then, of course, we go to the big one, which is Order 66.
Yep, everyone knows Order 66.
Which in this case, interestingly enough, was called Operation Nightfall. Basically, Anakin, the 501st, stormed the temple and murdered everybody inside.
Yep.
And then there's this scene from a Dark Horse comic where there's this entire crowd of civilians gathering around the Jedi Temple. And there's just this giant fire raging on. And the clone troopers are just gathering the bodies of the Jedi and just yeeting it into the fire.
Oh my god!
All within full view of the populace and everything.
What the fuck? And no one said anything?
Well, there was one person that said something. It was a Jedi Knight that survived the Purge. And he was like, "You have been deceived, citizens. We did not betray the Republic. The Republic betrayed us." And he decided to go Leroy Jenkins on the clones, and he got killed.
Of course.
And then they just yeet him into the fire.
Oh my god!
Oh yeah, I think in another canon comic, Masameda was at the Jedi Temple before a large gathering, and he had this giant forge, which contained all of the lightsabers of the Jedi. He even held Master Yoda's own lightsaber. He was making this huge demonstration, witness the destruction, the true destruction of the Jedi Order. He threw Yoda's lightsaber in there, and they all just got melted in the furnace.
Oh god.
Yeah, it was pretty metal. when the Empire came in and curb stomped the Jedi Order.
That's tragic, dude.
Very tragic. And like full display of the entire populace of Coruscant.
Oh, I imagine all the little lightsabers from the younglings being thrown in there.
Just yeet.
Oh.
Yeet.
It's sad.
to put more salt to the wound, after the fires were quelled at the Jedi Temple and everything, it would eventually be converted into the Imperial Palace. There's actually a picture of it in canon.
I think I've seen it. And it looks just the fucking same.
And Palpatine even made it his personal residence.
Asshole!
He's like,
what the fuck?
That's like his ultimate power trip. He was responsible for the downfall of the Jedi Order, and now his throne is at the very same temple of his ancient enemy.
My god!
Yep.
Palpatine.
Palpatine is an absolute shitter. It's so good.
That's one way to describe him.
But yeah, fortunately, even though it was under the thumb of the Empire and the Emperor's personal residence and everything like that, it would, when the New Republic came in, and, after the Battle of Endor and everything, the New Republic would actually retake Coruscant and make it their capital. Mm-hmm. And in return, they managed to repossess the Jedi Temple, even though it was heavily damaged from the invasion and everything.
Yeah.
Eventually, Luke Skywalker's new Jedi Temple would, reform. Take its place and help rebuild the Jedi Temple. I think at this point in time, Luke Skywalker didn't want to have close connections with the Republic because he was all like, no, politics was the downfall of the Jedi Temple. Stay the fuck away from us.
Smart idea.
But eventually he was kind of forced to, go to the Jedi Temple and, make it the home of his Jedi Order because, they need to be
nowhere else really to go.
Nowhere else really to go, so yeah. Unfortunately, though, it would be destroyed again, but this time it would be rebuilt into a new structure, which is called the New Jedi Temple.
What the fuck?
I know, it looks so weird. It's just a bunch of pyramids.
What? That's weird.
I know,
That's very weird.
Yeah, compared to the original design of a Jedi Temple, it just looks ordinary by comparison.
It looks like the textures didn't show up.
Yeah, it's a little bit weird, but yeah.
A little bit? That's fucking weird.
You'll be happy to know, though, 100 years later, this is when Luke Skywalker is dead and everything, the Jedi Temple would be taken over by Darth Krayt's one Sith. And there's actually a picture of this one, because it looks a lot better as a Sith temple.
A little bit.
Yeah.
Just a bit.
And then it got retaken by the Jedi Order again, and it was reconverted back to its original structure.
Like how it used to be before the Clone Wars?
Yep.
Okay.
But yeah, that's basically all I have about the Jedi Temple.
That was better than I thought.
Yeah.
There was more information and history than I thought there would be.
Yeah, I wish I had better images of the cutaway of the Jedi Temple in that book, but that's the best I could find. Still very fascinating to look at, though.
Now I need to track down that book.
Yeah, it's so good. I think each movie has a cutaway where you could just look through details like ships, structures, starfighters, that sort of thing.
My brother and I might have had it as kids, but probably got sold somewhere. I don't know. I can't remember.
I remember getting those books from the local library when I visit my grandmother in the summers and everything.
Aw.
This is so good. Got any lingering questions, Hannah?
No, my curiosity is satiated.
All right.
What are we covering next?
Well, actually, before I go into that, how cool would it be if we got, like, cutaways of the Valley of the Dark Lords?
Oh, that would be so cool.
It would be so dope.
Being able to actually see into the fucking tombs and see whose tomb it is.
Yeah.
That would be awesome.
It would be so cool, but they don't appear in the movie, so whatever.
Crying.
just shedding a single tear. Anyway, so to answer your question, Hannah, since we have resumed the light side of the Force, I think it is high time to talk about another hero character.
Okay.
And this time, we will be talking about the master of Obi-Wan Kenobi himself.
Qui-Gon!
Qui-Gon Jinn!
Yay!
Yeah! Yeah, I think this is a long time coming for you.
Oh yeah, I've been eager to talk about Qui-Gon.
Yeah,
He is one of my favorite heroes.
Yeah, he's pretty dope, especially when he's acted by Liam Neeson. I have a particular set of skills.
Yes.
But anyway,
looking forward to that.
Yeah. So anyway, that's our episode of Can Mayonnaise Kill a Jedi? Or in this case, how many layers does the Jedi Temple have?
Like onions.
Yeah, just like onions, except it doesn't make you cry. Well, except during Order 66. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. It was a lot of fun to talk about the Jedi Temple. The Jedi Temple and its intricacies. And yeah, I'm currently sweating right now at the aspect of doing research on Qui-Gon Jinn.
Have fun.
Well, whatever. It's I'm used to it by now. But anyway, hope you're having a wonderful rest of your day. Hope you enjoy the Ahsoka TV show. And may the Force be with you. And this is the way.
May the Force be with you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.